Hey, what's up, everybody? Robbie the Wagner here. This is Whiskey Web and Whatnot. We've got a live show today from that Conf. You may have seen a bunch of that Conf videos from us earlier. This one, the intro got a little messed up, so you won't hear the usual intro. It's going to be a little choppier, but we do have an amazing guest, James Quick. We've been excited to get this one out for you. Sorry for the big delay, and hope you enjoy what you hear.
Welcome to Syntax. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Front End Happy Hour podcast.
Welcome to this week's JS Party.
Live from Shipshape Studios, this is Whiskey Web and Whatnot, with your hosts, Robbie the Wagner and me, Charles William Carpenter III.
That's right, Charles. We drink whiskey and talk about web development. I mean, it's all in the name. It's not that deep.
This is Whiskey Web and Whatnot. Do not adjust your set.
Robbie the Wagner and Charles William Carpenter III.
Today we'll just call me Charles Slow.
All right.
I don't know. It's the best joke I've got offhand.
Because our guest is quick.
Okay. Sometimes I rhyme slow, sometimes I rhyme
Quick. There it is. No,
Yeah. So yeah, our guest today is James Quick. How's it going, James?
Very good. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. For anyone who has not heard of you, could you please give a few sentences about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I usually start with developer, speaker, and teacher. I've done some combination of those things professionally now for 10 years, and I do content creation and consulting full time. So I've had 7-8 years of developer experience, engineering. I got an architecture, and now I get to work for myself doing content, coming to conferences, doing YouTube videos, courses, all the stuff to just help teach people how to write code.
Nice. Yeah, I was listening to a couple of your podcasts earlier where you were changing your title up.
Yeah.
Are you going to make a random generator for that, maybe?
Yeah, I have no idea what to call myself. And it seems so lame when I fill out a bio for a conference or something, and they're like, "What's your title?" And I'm like, I don't really know. So I have an LLC, so sometimes I'll say founder of the LLC.
right.
And content creator. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, who knows? Titles are hard.
I know.
You teach people how to code and get better at code and learn different things about code. You show exciting things in code that you like. Those are actually some of my favorite videos of yours where you're just like, Astro 4 just came out and it's awesome. Let me tell you why.
Yeah, Astro overwhelms me. I don't know if we're ready to go down that rabbit hole yet, but they release new versions so quickly, and I have a course.
Yeah.
And so right before I released the course, they're like, "Hey, we have this new version coming out." I'm like, "Thanks for the heads up." I was kind of working on this.
Yeah.
And then I'm like 3 months later or whatever, they released 4.0, which is very exciting, but with mixed feelings. I'm like, stop, let me just sit on the content that I have for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you can go and update stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, we should definitely get deeper into that because we do love Astro too. But before we do, let's start with the whiskey, Chuck.
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to refuse to pronounce the whiskey.
This is Auchentoshan. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. You got to say it like
Auchentoshan.
it's kind. Well, no, that doesn't sound Scottish to me at all. So
I
this
can't
is
do a Scottish accent.
Auchentoshan is what it's called. I'm sure those in Scotland would say it even better. But this is a single malt from Glasgow. It's aged 12 years. Obviously, is 100% malt and is matured in bourbon and sherry casks and is 80 proof. I was thinking you asked me to take it a little easy on you, so I think we did. I think we maybe have something tasty and not too deep for the palate. It is 230 or so.
It's 242 now.
Oh, okay. Well, then fill out this glass if you like.
Across the pond.
I'm going to go with this one.
later. So.
That's
Exactly.
true. That's true.
If you want to have a proper Scotch experience. Oh gosh, sorry about that. Anyway,
we can't get a pour sound. You gotta put it in your
okay, we'll see how that goes.
I'm going to skip
Take
doing
one
that
down,
and
pass
just
it down. I brought my own glass.
Nice spin to it.
Does it? How close does it put me to alcoholism that I travel with my own whiskey glass?
You can just say it's part of the podcast. Like that's how.
Yeah.
It's part of the brand. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Do you travel with it when you're not doing a podcast?
I refuse to answer that.
Yeah. That would be an interesting question.
All right. Ooh, it's got a smoky. Definitely
Smells kinda
catching
light.
that. Yeah. Well, I get a little smoke, a little bit of like a cherry. That's probably like the sherry casks.
Smell a little bit of new shoe leather.
Gosh, really? I'm not,
Yeah, you're not
okay.
getting
That's the
that?
best kind.
I'm not. I just old shoes in here. So You were asking a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
The vernacular is kind of similar to wines. It's just like whatever olfactory descriptors you could come up with that make sense to you, and sometimes we'll connect on that, or sometimes we'll get there. Maybe you say orange and I say lemon. Oh, both citrus. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to take a taste.
All right.
Okay, you may have ruined this for me, Robbie, but there is a little new leather in the beginning.
You want to know what I'm getting?
I'm going to know anyway.
Very slight notes of a cotton candy Go-Gurt. Cotton candy Go-Gurt. When is the last time you had one of those?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
Just remind me
maybe
what it
today,
was like.
But yeah.
I'm not getting that. No. I get like a little bit of like dark chocolate cherry kind of together.
Yeah.
And then something bitter on the finish. Definitely a lot of smoke on the finish for me too.
When you said the cherries, that's what I thought of. But I think going like the dark chocolate cherry, which is usually a good combination for desserts and for alcohol, whatever.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Neat.
It's fairly tasty, I would say.
Yeah, it's got a lot of flavor for it. I mean, 12 years is sort of like table stakes for a Scotch, I think. For me, if you're getting one that's not blended, so they haven't tried to like change its flavors in that way. They're in used barrels, so they tends to be it takes longer for it to really get the flavors out, because bourbon and sherry in this case have done some of that work already. So you got to get deep into the wood. 12 years, 15, 18, 20 isn't crazy for a Scotch. You get down that line for bourbon, which requires you to use brand new charred oak barrels. Then you're like, whoa, it gets nuts when they get above 15 for me personally. At least.
You know, I don't drink much liquor, but beer I drink. I wouldn't say a lot of. I like beer a lot.
Yeah.
But bourbon barrel beers,
Yeah.
like that have been in bourbon barrels for a while, that's my favorite taste in a beer, like by far. Favorite beer, easy.
Yeah, there's a few like stouts that do that. Actually, a lot of stuff does it now.
porters,
Yeah.
I was, the other night at home in Memphis, we went to, after soccer,
Yes.
if it's early enough, we go to a local brewery who, they've actually gotten really big, so they're in like other cities in the area. But I found bourbon barrel beer that was 12.5%.
Ooh.
It was delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll hit you.
Delicious
and
and effective.
Yeah. So it's-
Yeah. Especially after sports, you know,
Yeah.
you have something in your body's like, please give me. Well, so I know you're an avid listener of the podcast, so you're probably already very familiar with this, but I'll talk about our rating system, and it's based on a octopi-like character. So it's 8 tentacles, but then we decided to make it crazy. It's 0 to 8 because we're
developers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Developers. So yes, 0 being terrible. You'd never have this again. You didn't throw it behind you. So I'm going to assume you're probably not a 0. 4, middle of the ground. 8, amazing. Clear the shelves next time you see it. And Robbie and I will sort of like compartmentalize them as like, we'll probably talk about them collected with other scotches. Totally don't have to. You can do it with whiskey in general. You can do it with like, just if I'm going to have liquor, would I have this or something else? Like whatever, kind of yellow it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also won't make you go first. So I'll make Robbie go first.
Okay, I was not prepared. I thought you were going to go.
That's why I wait for you.
Okay, so in terms of scotches, I'm not a big scotch person. So, but this was not terrible. Let me think. What is
A scotch that
the
you
best scotch I liked was the Muckety Muck. That's probably a 7 for me.
Just
I'm
on
gonna-
branding alone, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It was cool, Brandy.
Yes.
I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna just middle of the road 4. I'm gonna say 4.
I don't think there's any shame in that. If you want to go next,
Yeah, I'll go.
Go for it.
I don't have a ton of experience with scotch either. My first scotch was like very, very smoky. Like scotch is usually smoky, but it was like intended to be very smoky, and it was way too much. I would say a 6 for me. You always want to like, not having much experience, you can't go like all the way to the top, and then like it's not that delicious, but it is. I enjoy it. Cool. Yeah, I go 6. Nice.
Yeah. I'm leaning in a similar direction in terms of like Scott. I've had this brand before, not this exact one, but I think it's very drinkable off the shelf. Like I usually don't like a ton of smoke, and I like how this is already mellowed out a little bit for me. I got a lot of smoke at first. As I have a second and third sip, as that starts to mellow out, and I'm getting more of the sweetness and like woodiness and
Go-Gurt.
Yeah, cotton candy Go-Gurt.
Yeah.
Not at all. None of that somehow or another. But it actually reminds me more of those little like chocolate cherries that you get. You could probably still get them at Walgreens or whatever seasonally, even though they seem like, are they shelf stable for 20 years? Should I put this in my body? I don't know. I'm still going to eat 4. Yeah. Like they kind of have that nuance to me where like, oh, I like it. It shouldn't have too much of this. It's okay. So I'm going to go 5. Yeah. I think it's 5. It's tasty. I'd have it again. It's not knocking my socks off.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so now we'll go into lukewarm takes. Most of these are old, so they are not hot anymore.
I added a couple.
I added some too. So maybe we start from the bottom.
Yeah,
go back
from the bottom, then we're here.
Now we're here. Thank you.
Yes,
good. Glad you went there.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? What do you think about nested ternaries? It's been a big thing recently.
I think there's most likely no way that makes sense to do. It's probably like. I would never do that. I think ternaries, like, I'm not against ternaries in general.
Right.
But I think you have to be careful with, like, in what scenario and how much goes into the ternaries. Because then you could just much more cleanly break it out into anything else. So nested, I would say no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, if it's one line and it's a quick, basically an if-else that's in one line, fine. But if you're doing multiple, no, it's not readable. Yeah.
Quick fun fact, like in our Discord, we do live coding Thursdays. So what it's been mostly, and it's evolving, has been me doing lead code problems just for me to lead and other people to like give ideas and blah, blah, blah to help like just teach people how to approach problems like that. And one of the guys has taken it upon himself to take every solution and eventually turn it into a one-liner. And these are not like one-liner problems. These are like real lead code problems that he just like puts into one line as an exercise, which is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's not something you would do. Like you not recommended at all.
Don't introduce
job
this
security is high with that.
Yeah.
But it is a cool challenge to like change the way you think and start to get creative with the things you have to force them into one line.
Yeah.
But readability, not something I would encourage you.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I'm looking at comments.
Oh, we do have comments.
Yeah. But we need show notes, but we also need Oh. Okay. There we go. See? Audio is good.
These are not our comments, or these are. There's like ones like audio sounds good. Cool. I agree. It sounds amazing.
Yes. My voice outside of a mic is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. So I noticed this like nuance in different people's like resumes and whatever else. We touched briefly on title, right? So web developer, right? Yes. Web developer or software engineer. How do you view yourself?
Well, for like title, I wouldn't use either now, and I still don't know what my title is, so I'm kind of like out of that conversation. But I think there's some level of sophistication that seems to come with, like connotation-wise, with software engineer. Like that feels like a Google type role that like has some credibility behind it. No, not that web developer wouldn't, but a whole separate rant is like the fact that titles are meaningless. Like you go from one company to another and you could go from a regular junior to like staff just because the opportunity was available. So those things like are really arbitrary and they change from company to company. So at one company it may mean one thing and another it may mean a completely different thing. So completely arbitrary. I think like software engineer sounds a little more sophisticated, but that's as much as I have.
I always felt like the old distinction used to be like, are you writing software for the web or is it like installed?
Yeah.
And it felt like 15 years ago, it was like, if I'm installing it, I'm maybe a software engineer. And if I'm here, but I don't know.
Web stuff doesn't feel like software. You're right. Like it is,
right?
But it's like,
especially how pervasive SaaS is at this point. But it sounds like you're advocating for unions. And so I just want our audience to, James Quick, you heard it here, unionizes our industry.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a panel on AI and we were talking about like having to come up with rules to governance around AI, right? There's a lot of open questions. There's a lot of benefit. There's a lot of people scared about AI, but governance of controlling that to a certain extent is a missing, yet to be evolved thing.
Yeah.
And I was talking about the unions happening at the time in the auto industry and how like that's where you get control to advocate for wages and that kind of stuff. And I was saying out of nowhere, like maybe we need to unionize against robots and AI to standardize whatever we think those requirements are.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a valid question. I don't know. I mean, it's not always a scary word per se.
Yeah.
Unions can be helpful sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah. Just don't ask my dad. He'll disagree with you.
Well, he's watching this right now, and
I
so
doubt
he's like, no, okay.
So disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dad has been disappointed in Robbie for years.
yeah.
So
That does happen sometimes.
It's a different story, though, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of disappointing, is React too complex now?
React isn't. I don't think React itself is any more complex really than a couple of years ago. Like, I think if you're just doing React, I think you just do what you've been doing. Like, you can. I think potentially the conversation around complex is you're getting into Next.js, you're getting into Remix, you're getting into Redwood, getting into other frameworks on top of React. And then you're getting into, now we're diving into the world of server components, right? Like, I think that's probably the biggest trigger for where we are now. Next.js has shifted in their world how they do backends or how they do front ends, right, with server components.
Yeah.
And so that does change things. But I think React, the things that could be complicated about React, I think have basically been there. I don't see anyone using server components with just React. I don't see anyone using some of those other things that we're a little intimidated by in just React. So I think it's more at the meta framework level. But the meta frameworks also make things easier because they take care of a lot of stuff for you. So
yeah.
I don't think so personally. I think it's always the constant, maybe at a higher level, the landscape of what we consider best practices continues to evolve.
Sure.
And staying up to date with that, I think, is much more of the challenge than it is React itself being complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like a lot of people forget that PHP still powers like 60% of the web. Like if there's a thing you're productive in, just use that.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Like-
a whole other fun conversation. Yeah, but absolutely that.
Yeah. And you got to bear in mind the incentives for some of these meta frameworks, right, is varied, and you can't be upset if you opt into that ecosystem, right? Like you said, some of these meta frameworks offered React boundaries and best practices and things that people loved, and that's why they embraced it, because choices were finally made. We didn't write another saga or whatever, right? And that's good, but the downside is that the goalpost kind of keeps moving to a degree. Right, like, oh yeah, I know how to be awesome in Next and all of this. So 13 comes out and you gave me some like sugar with that, and there's some changes. Great, there's that. 14 comes out and now you've changed the paradigms. Well, okay, is this better for me or you? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that just seems to fall in line with where the industry is going. Like, so I have a whole another rant on innovation. And if you look at cars over the years, a 2005 Toyota Camry looks very similar to a Honda Accord or Civic at the time.
Yeah.
Right? And then you look in 2015 and they oddly look very similar again. In 2020, they look oddly similar, even though they've changed together.
Yeah.
Same thing with iPhone, same thing with Android. Like, you can nitpick, but like they get the same types of things within a few years of each other.
That's true.
And frameworks are more or less the same, which has always been a good thing from the perspective of, if I learn one, I can learn the other.
Yeah.
It's transferable. But also, I think makes it where you can see those trends and you kind of learn the idea of the trend, and then applies to other frameworks as well. So Remix is actually working on server components. Redwood.js is actually working on server components. Next.js already has. So they're like doing the same types of things together.
Yeah. I want to touch on that a little bit, but I want to let Robbie cover hot takes, because you mentioned Redwood a couple of times, which is really under the radar for a lot of folks.
I think we covered, but let's go to the one that really matters.
Okay.
Tailwind or vanilla CSS?
Definitely Tailwind for me. And it's so awkward when I go to something and try to write regular CSS, because I'm just trying to type in Tailwind classes, and I'm like, what is the syntax for this?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just easier to start with that for me on everything. And that's not me saying that's the way to do it, but for me, definitively, it's Tailwind.
Yeah. I think the arguments against it are like, oh, it's so messy. You have all these classes. Like, well, you can abstract it. It's like any other code.
Right. Break
like
it
if
into a
you
component or whatever.
Yeah, if you have a 500 line component, you probably want to abstract that into smaller components.
Absolutely.
Same with your CSS.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
Anyway,
Yeah. You love asking that one, though.
I do. I love Tailwind. So
Yeah. There's a new tool. I can't remember the name, but it is targeted at solving that exact problem of the bloat and tailwinds.
Yes.
And again, this is kind of useless because I can't remember the name, but keep an eye out for a new tool that helps solve that issue with like how many classes you have.
Yeah.
In your component.
Tell us what the name is later, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
There you go.
I'll see if I can take
I
that.
think I came across something that like that's what it was. It's basically like trying to just give you this extra sugar on top for
which is the number one complaint that people have is the bloat.
Yeah.
But you can also opt into a bunch of component libraries that were built on top of that do their own abstraction things too. If you're trying to go quickly, like giving me some components that I know kind of the output of, like why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to regress a little bit back to Redwood.js, just because I had my own kind of this is family friendly, but anyway, come to Jesus moment around like
No one can hear us out there.
yeah, that's true. Here,
People online can.
it's just a turn of phrase. But anyway, I was like, so we have this open source product or open source library that we worked on for like 7 years or so. I'm trying to like turn it into a product and was working on trying to do an API and SDK and, all the other things.
Other
like,
3-letter acronyms.
Yes, exactly. Let's try an X14. Let's see how this all goes. And I was doing Alessia.js, which is a bun-powered API. Super cool, kind of fun, bleeding edge, like stuff that. But I'm a one-man show, so it was very challenging. And I just had this moment where I like, maybe I should just work with some web frameworks that are already a little Babel tested, stuff we all know about. Like
Opinions are actually good.
Spent a weekend going through like the Redwood tutorial and the Django tutorial again because it's been 10 years since I touched that, and I landed on Redwood. I just felt like tutorial was nice. It's a bunch of stuff that I worked with in the last 5 years, so it's still kind of top of mind. I can use Tailwind, like some of the new stuff too. Prisma, it doesn't. I mean, Drizzle was cool, but Prisma works. Like it just works. And we talked to Tom like a couple of years ago when we were first starting this podcast actually, and I like how opinionated it is. So just because you mentioned it a couple of different times, just wanted to get some of your feedback and thoughts around Redwood and if you've used it or
I haven't used it so much, and I'll admit I'm a little biased now because my co-host Amy now is a full-time employee at Redwood.
Oh, nice.
So that's why it's more and more top of mind for me. But I actually had Tom on my live stream in 2020 and talked to him about what he was building, and I didn't really do a whole lot of like Ruby on Rails as an example.
Yeah.
But when I was getting into web development, I went through a couple of different stints of a few different options and went through a few months of going really hard on Ruby on Rails. And I just love that they gave you so much.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that resonated with me with Redwood of like the idea of not boundaries. What's it called? They're not context. What's the cells?
Yes,
Thank
okay.
you.
I was going to get there. I was like, it is new to me still, but the cells.
The idea of cells in Redwood is basically just the idea that for almost every component you have, you're going to have these different states of that component.
Yeah.
And you're going to need that every time, and you're going to need to get data. So why don't we just like give you these tools that do all the things for you that like streamline that process? And I'm a huge fan of that. I know it's always a balance of I'm opinionated or not, like how much flexibility and freedom do I want? My ultimate goal as a developer, going back to no code, low code, like all the things, is I just want to build shit. Like,
we can wow each other under the hood, but if you don't have users and they, first of all, you need to get users, so you got to build something, and they don't care.
No.
Right? Does it work? Is it snappy? Is it? Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest advantage is moving from code base to code base. So like I've been using Ember for 12 years. It's very opinionated.
Nice.
It's like I can pull up any Ember app and like start writing production code now. I don't have to learn how the app works or anything because it's all the same, which I think is the benefits you get from a Redwood or anything with lots of opinions. It's like you open an app and you can start writing it right now. It's not like 6 months of ramp up of where did you put your components? I don't know. They go somewhere, and
I like having that structure, taking the guesswork out. I think onboarding, exactly like you said, is easier. I think onboarding and ramping up junior developers is also easier because there's not this ambiguity of like, why do we do this here? Why do we do that there? And it's different. You have this consistency. So that I'm definitely a big fan of. The other thing, and I'll kind of like take Amy's spot for shouting out Redwood, is they're working on React Server components.
Yeah.
So they've been historically like just like a lot of tools around building a SPA, a single page app.
Yep.
But now they're going to have that backend component prioritization which again follows the trend of the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be really exciting for them. And I'm excited to hear more from Amy as they evolve on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think like the ideology behind server components on the React side is necessarily bad. Like we've called them 3 different things that like it started as like isomorphic. It was just how do I render through a node server and push them up. Yeah. And there was, yes, but no. And so it's been around for a while, this whole server side render kind of thing. But I think it's just like some of the oddities around like building them so co-located and using like the use client, use server flags and stuff. It's just a little like, okay, the organization kind of throws me off. It's like I could have a shared components directory and load them in either. I don't want to say, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think it's one of those things that takes time to adjust. Like when I'm a big StalkKit fan as well. So a year and a half ago, they went through their big update where they changed their router system and the keywords that you had to use. Next.js is on the SU. Right. You go to like page.tsx or whatever inside of a nested route.
Yep.
And people, understandably have adverse reaction to that immediately because it's just not something they're used to. It's just different. Yeah. But ultimately, especially if the framework dictates it, like if you want to be able to write code, you got to do it. People get used to it, I think.
Stay off my lawn kind of thing. And I think I mentioned
Apple's the best at that. Apple can get you to do anything that they want you to. Yeah.
This just in, Whiskey.fund is now open for all your merch needs.
That's right, Robbie. We're hearing reports of hats, sweaters, and t-shirts, as well as a link to join our Discord server.
What's a Discord server?
Just read the prompter, man.
Hit subscribe, leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, and tell your friends about our broadcast.
It really does help us reach more people and keeps the show growing.
All right, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So I do want to kind of take the other side of that. I feel like Astro, as we kind of touched on, is more of the correct way to go, in my opinion. Like, meta framework should be not framework specific, maybe. So like, we're doing all this work and then everybody copies it and borrows from it and does the same things. Why don't we all build kind of agnostic things that do all the glue work and the things you need? And then if you want to use Svelte, you want to use React, whatever, you can swap them out. Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about Astro, in addition to many other things. And I remember when I first heard about that, Cassidy Williams did a presentation like in my Discord on Astro at the time, like way before I knew anything about it. And she was like, see, I can do like a view component and a React component. I was like, that's cool, but why would you ever want to do that? And it was just because it was an arbitrary example of like mixing stuff. But the reality is like, you could have React or Vue experience come into the Astro ecosystem, take advantage of all that they offer, which is similar to a Next.js and a SvelteKit, et cetera, and be able to bring your existing skills and build faster. And that is a really appealing thing. And it'll be interesting to see where Astro ends up in the next couple of years, because I rave about Astro's developer experience, and they started really niche, which was, we're going to help you build content-driven sites that are static. What they started with. And they absolutely nailed that experience. It's the best static first content-driven experience I've ever had in any framework.
Absolutely.
But then they started that now they have server, they have API endpoints, they have form submissions, they have all these things. And I just know they're going to continue to make the developer experience around that better and better. And that's where I see them more directly, like kind of competing with the more established Next.js, SvelteKit, Nux, Remix, like all these things that we have talked about so far. Yeah. I think some of the benefits too are like, if you have a large team, like being in the Ember world, it's a lot smaller these days. And like, everyone always goes, oh, well, we should use React. We should use React. Okay, well, this is maybe a bad example since you can't use Ember and Astro. But like, say you're using Vue in your whole app and you bring in a team of like 10 React devs and they love React. Well, then just let them write React, because you can write both.
Because it can be a micro front end. It's like, so that's kind of a nice thing. And the difference too there to me is that, so Next.js is essentially an entry point into utilizing Versel's web platform, right? They're not just hosts. They're adding image optimization, and they have analytics now, and they they're giving you a full web platform. So they want you to like come in to us as a vendor. We're value adding all the AWS tools into a nice experience, and that, use this tool, do these things this way, you get all this like sugar on top. I get that. I get the incentives around it. So just conversely, you have Astro saying, we're going to help you build great shit. We're going to give you like some APIs to like do that, and bring your own view layer. But it'll be interesting to see like where that end game kind of goes too.
Yeah.
And I think they have the right idea.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. The Versel thing is a whole interesting potential conversation too. I've seen a lot of people comment when I posted something on Twitter about the pricing for Versel, and people are like, I don't know why they charge you so much when it's just an abstraction layer on top of AWS, and like you can get this many things for free in AWS, but the tier in Versel is so much lower, or whatever. And I think sometimes people forget that like you're paying for the niceties that they give you. Like I don't have experience with AWS. I've never wanted to have that direct experience because I've always been intimidated.
You must love yourself.
I do. I appreciate my time.
Yeah.
And so I'm very appreciative of what Netlify offers, of what Versel offers, of what Cloudflare offers. Like I'm appreciative of all that stuff. Now I'm still a cheap developer, so I have to balance that. Right. I think people really forget that like those niceties come at a cost as well.
Well, the people that complain about that too have obviously never accidentally left something on AWS and gotten charged $50,000 or something. So like, I think it's necessary guardrails. And if it's just, making your cost a maximum, it's worth it.
Yeah. Hold on here. Noob God. What did you just find? Well, your favorite podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see. Maybe just some more of this. Oh yeah. A guy. Yeah, there you go. A guy wearing a tie-dyed rugby. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know if you do. But
my Whiskey Web and Whatnot band tee.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. At Whiskey.fund. Check it out.
Sponsored by Sentry. Anyway, let's go back. That's what it says. So
it does say that. I thought you were just being funny.
No.
Thanks, David.
Oh yeah,
Sentry's awesome, by the way. I'll give them. Been shouting them out on our stuff. I'm getting to do some work with them, and they were supposed to be here to record an episode with us as a sponsor, but couldn't make it, unfortunately. But they've been really awesome. So shout out to Sentry.
Sentry's killing it.
Yeah. They've been sponsoring all the conferences too. I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. So
and everyone on GitHub. This is the new thing. I don't know if you noticed this. Like every company that it's like I can give $5 a month as a GitHub sponsor and get like prominent ad space on this person's profile. It's the new game. Yeah.
And just the support, I think.
Yeah.
So,
well, yes. I think they're actually doing it for good reasons.
Yeah. But there's also benefit. I mean, there's no doubt that like you spend money to get something new.
Sure. David talked about this on Twitter. It's like really such a low bar for like what their marketing budget is and how they could have said just try to turn it into develop or helping individuals versus throwing up Google ads like crazy.
Yeah. That's I've got a whole lot of rants about a lot of things. But
She'll see your rants up
majority of my career in developer relations, developer experience. And, it's easy to track numbers like how many people did I talk to at a conference, how many people came to my talk, how many people came to a booth. But the reality is like those experiences aren't the same. They're not valued the same. They don't have the same weight. And so storytelling, I think, is really, really important. And I think when you go down the route of being able to support an individual who you can have, regardless of whether or not you talk, like you have a very specific one-to-one relationship of I supported you do something, that means a lot. Or it can. Like it doesn't always. But I think those sorts of relationships mean a lot more than having 50 people come grab a t-shirt from your booth.
Yeah, for sure. And it's socks these days, but socks are hot.
Yeah,
so I don't like the socks.
I love creative socks, and I've kind of gotten over it though, because they became like so common.
They became the new t-shirt.
Yeah, I need shirts. I don't need socks.
I need shirts. I'm like still getting rid of shirts.
Well, no, I don't mean I have a deficit of shirts. I'm just like shirts I need more than socks. I don't care what socks I'm wearing because you're not going to see them. Like
they were nuanced. I like them. I was going to say I used to be in the Ember community as well. Ember Conf was like one of the first places where they did socks. They did socks, the little hamster. Actually, Sentry did socks there one year.
Yeah. Sentry used to be in Ember for like a minute, and then they went no.
Well, to be fair, they started in Python and Django.
Yeah.
So anyway, you lost your place.
So I do want to pivot to a little bit. Not exactly tech. So obviously you're a newish dad.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you balance, that obviously you're doing tons of podcasts, tons of conferences, whatever. Like what's the secret to balancing all of that stuff?
I don't know if there's a secret. I think as a parent, you have to do what you have to do, right? Like, My wife is also in tech. She works at Auth0. She's at the booth now.
Oh, okay.
And so we're balancing. We've got Jamie, our daughter, with us. So we're balancing as I'm doing podcasts and she's working the booth, like who's taking her, and she's holding her now, which is very nice. And like, anyway, it's a challenge. And I think we both just realized that we have to do what we have to do. She's, I think, more subconscious about not being able to dedicate more time to work, just making sure that she's still contributing at the way that the level she thinks that she should be.
Sure. Yeah.
She had 6 months off, which is super, super helpful.
Well, that's amazing. That's great.
For me to kind of get back to work and her take care of Jamie. We have a nanny in the house 3 days a week, which is really fantastic. Like having her in the house, lunchtime, I need to go down and like get a soda or something. Like I just walk down and see Jamie and hang out for a little bit, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. And
then we fill the other 2 days now with daycare. But yeah, there's a lot of one-handed coding or one-handed emails.
Absolutely.
Like I'm sitting here with baby in one hand and like laptop on the ground on the other. And it's gotten exponentially more difficult now that she crawls and wants to pull herself up on everything. I don't know. Yeah, there's no secret. You just got to do what you got to do. And people, I think before parenthood, like you don't know what it's like until you're a parent. Like I can do whatever. Like I can do anything. Like I've reached every milestone in my life so far. Like I'm gonna be a good parent, right?
Yeah.
It's just you gotta make these adjustments and do what you gotta do.
Yeah. And that's why you will be though, because you're self-aware in that way, and like it's not always going to be the best. It's not going to be the worst, and I'm always just going to give it, what I have. I remember seeing recently somebody on, like, you post on Twitter about like sometimes you got a baby here and you're like one-handed coding or something, and some jerk is like, this is why remote work sucks. Yeah, because clearly you're just not getting your job done. Like,
oh, so it's funny. You're actually talking about one that was much more recent, and there was a much bigger blow up. My most successful tweet, successful being in quotes, of all time was when she was a month or two old, and I had her sitting on something on my desk. Yeah. And I was like, this is coding while I can or something, like whatever. Yeah. And this is literally like, I've got a free like 30 minutes while she's sleeping, and I want to write some code because that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. She's in bassinet or something.
Yeah. And so there was a ton of comments about like, this is the problem with working in America. I'm like, this has nothing to do with like work-life balance in America. If you know anything that I talk about on everything that I do, it's all about work-life balance.
Right.
And then there was a whole deeper thing, and I won't call it names because it's not necessary, but someone tweeted me to say like, can't believe that you would use your child as like basically a publicity stunt, like to get attention.
Oh, wow.
Totally out of left field. And I caveated, this is my most successful tweet ever at over 1 million impressions. Yeah. And Twitter lost their freaking mind. And it was so like such an unnecessary targeted shot. It was so weird. But the cool thing about that was I realized that I've earned so much respect to the community from all the stuff that I've done, that people were responding like crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. James is out here like working hard, trying to be a dad, trying to work, like all these things, supporting me. And that was really cool. Yeah. But it is interesting, Twitter being a dangerous place of like, people can take anything that you do and they can twist it to whatever narrative they want to have the conversation about.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how well intentioned you were. They will find some way to make it bad. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. As I say, I feel like we could go down that path for quite some time, and then I'm like, well, maybe I temper some of my feelings around that. I was all like, clearly you just have no idea, what it's like to be a parent, what it's like to feel responsibility towards your work, and how to like meld that together and sometimes get it right and sometimes wrong. And that's fine if you feel that way, but also like you just clearly have no context there, like, and they just use this as a way to like shit on someone in one very specific way.
Well, what the wildest thing about that is the person that quote tweeted, people went back through his history. So I gave away his history.
We can find it later. I'm sure.
I know. I don't want to be intentional about shit talking other people. But whatever.
No, I'll show you.
Went back
I gave
through
you
his
Whiskey.
history. Now I'm listening up. Went back through his history and saw like the same type of pictures. And it's like, I don't know if they just had a bad day and just like kind of let loose on the keyboard or what. But you got to be really careful when you have an audience, the things that you say about other people, because a lot of people just follow what you say and read it and interpret it the way they just assume what you said. Yeah. Right? So if they take a situation that I do and they twist it, other people follow them, respect them, they're going to believe whatever that like twisted narrative is. So I think another side of that conversation is just being responsible with having an audience and a platform, because people pay attention to what you say, how you say it, who you say things about, and it matters.
Yeah.
This is why
luckily,
I just make jokes.
Yeah.
I was
We don't have that big of an audience. Doesn't really
too
matter.
serious. Yeah, and we have 2 current listeners, I think, from what I can see here, and
people that don't know what they found.
Yeah, they don't know what they found, and they've stumbled onto something amazing. Like
they went to stumble upon and ended up here.
I'm a dad of 2. I drink whiskey. I talk online and make a lot of jokes and wear bad clothes that's not age appropriate. Potentially, I don't know. So,
I mean, you're keeping it young. It's fine.
Yeah,
Maybe just keep changing what age appropriate means.
Exactly. That's what I'm going down. I'm like, this felt good to me today. Actually, I got this to match my kids because they made tie-dye shirts.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, that'll be cool. I got it, and so just repping. But I've now put that on the internet. Probably makes me a bad dad. It's hard to say.
There you go.
And then
Hard to win. Yeah.
we do have to talk about soccer before this is all done.
Yeah.
So
That's fine. Yeah.
James is into the world sport, right? Yeah. The one that everyone watches.
Football where you use your feet.
Yeah, not egg ball game.
Yeah.
real football. Proper football is what I'll say often, because I watch European football, and then the English invented it, so it's proper in that way. I know you were mentioning that you're a player. Mm-hmm. You don't watch a ton, but you do play. What's your position?
Forward striker.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I played like as a kid through like 5th grade and really loved it. And then I played sports all my life, like everything that you could think of, basically. I played baseball through high school. I worked with the women's basketball team in college.
Nice.
Played ultimate frisbee.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that you can think of. I'm a very sneaky, very good ping pong player. Like it's awkward.
Okay.
Because people will hear that and say, I want to play you in ping pong, thinking they understand. And it's not like I'm that amazing. It's just other people don't probably understand what a good ping pong anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you're going to be an amazing pickleball player in the future.
I'm looking forward to that. It's not that far.
Yeah. and I just tried it recently. It's actually super fun. I played tennis when I was younger for a while. And so tennis doesn't quite translate. There's a little bit there, but you're just like doing too much swing through. Yeah. And ping pong is a little more like this. Yeah. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah. I think you're gonna like
ping pong is mostly like reaction time and hand-eye coordination, which I have none of. Yeah. So really bad. Like I can do a little bit of tennis or something bigger.
Yeah. But like folks that stand like 3-4 feet back from the table and they're like,
yeah, see, that's how you play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's how
you're playing with James, that's how you play.
Okay. That's how right. So you're an athletic individual. I'll bring it back in.
I like to think so. Yeah. It's always been a big part of my life. My wife played soccer in college.
Yes.
That's the first thing that kind of caught my ear when I heard that she was an athlete.
Nice.
And anyway, so we dated through college. She and I have played co-ed together since then, and we've actually gotten to play with some really good players, like a lot of people that have played in college. So I've gotten to be around like pretty high quality for like rec league soccer, and getting to play with some smart players. So it's just something we love. Every time we've moved, that's been the first thing we've done is found a team to play on together. Usually like they always need good girls. And so she'll get on the team and I'll just sit there like, I can play next season if you need. And then I come on next season.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we get back Thursday night and have a game Friday. She plays in a Sunday league, and then we'll have outdoor starting back soon when the weather's a little bit better. But yeah, that's something we both individually. Yeah. Individually love playing together. And I think thinking towards kids, like I want my daughter to see us being active, which is something I didn't have with either of my parents.
Right.
So it's important for her to see us doing those things and being happy and enjoying those times together.
Yeah. Their number one influence are their parents. Yeah. What do they see you doing? It's not just about what you tell them to do. It's
they don't listen to that.
No, they definitely don't listen to that. Yeah. Don't shit in the pool again.
What you said? Sorry. I missed the don't.
Yeah. Daddy, why did you say shit? Like, well, we're at home. Anyway. Won't go down that bad.
No, but not to that level. To that.
Even not there
yet.
Yeah. It's a fun one, whatever. So I was going to ask. Oh yeah. So you're in Memphis.
Memphis. Yeah.
Yes. You have an MLS team or no?
We don't. We have a minor league. What's
USL?
Yes. We have.
Phoenix also same thing. We have USL.
Yeah.
What is that?
What does that stand for?
I don't know, United Soccer League, United States Soccer League or whatever. It's actually one of the older leagues. Then it's essentially like one tier down, but there's no promotion relegation. That's a whole other argument. But
but they can't be like Nashville got. I don't know if it falls under the category of promotion and relegation, but Nashville became an MLS team.
Yeah. So
Which
I'm
is
from
cool
like
for
the
them.
Cincinnati area. Cincinnati was in USL, and then they
What's
paid
the
money and
requirements?
got-
Is it?
Well, you pay a bunch of money and you need to show some consistency in terms of like the numbers around attendance and like enough fanfare and stuff. Yeah, there's been a few that did that. Portland, maybe. I mean, Portland used to be like different leagues like USL and stuff. Portland and Seattle, both old teams. The Sounders were like NASL in the 70s kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the local's kind of fun.
Yeah. We love the games at home, and my wife actually played like in high school. She would always play with the guys because she was good. And one of the guys that she had played with, they're a couple years apart, but he ended up playing at the team in Memphis, which is really cool.
That's cool.
And then we've got another guy that we played with he plays professional indoor, which is really neat too. So he just moved to St. Louis to play there. And then I think eventually I'll have the option to continue playing or become the coach there, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually just realized probably within the last couple of months that we still had a U.S. like indoor league. Growing up in like the Cincinnati area, we had the Silverbacks, and I know they're not a thing anymore, but it was like indoor was big. Every winter, everybody played indoor. Yeah.
I love playing indoor. It's a totally different game.
It is so different,
very
so
fun in its
fast.
own way.
Yeah. Like the like artificial grass aspect is always very interesting to me.
Wait, they put grass in there?
Well,
I thought there was some that was like a wood floor. Is that not a thing?
That's futsal.
Yeah.
That's different. And it has a different ball that's a little smaller and weighted differently. Yeah. So you can juggle it a little more.
Okay.
Like do little tricks. So traditional indoor would just be like, the grass, like turfy stuff you put down. Newer one, I played in some leagues where they actually had longer grass and like rubber down, and you could play with like low
rubber
firm
stuff.
ground cleats
I've done
on
that
it.
too.
Yeah. Which is also pretty
the
interesting.
rubber just flies everywhere.
It flies
It does.
everywhere.
It's always in your cleats.
Yeah,
Get
it's
home and,
all over the
take your
place.
shoes off and you just dump out all the rubber bits.
It's fun to watch other people play on it and watch it fly
Kind
everywhere.
of was that. I'm not saying that it's better or worse. It's maybe not better, but it felt cool to be like inside with cleats.
Sure. Yeah. You had one. So a lot of the indoor places have like the walls all the way around, which is really fun because it's a totally different dimension to like play off of a wall to yourself or your teammates.
The extra player, we would always say.
Yeah. And we had another one that was bigger than traditional indoor, but didn't have the wall. So it was like playing a small sided outdoor game, which is also a different experience. So yeah. I love it all.
Nice. Well, I hope you keep the wheels on for at least another 10 years.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, it gets achy. Just don't drink a bunch of whiskey. I think that helps. That's one.
Yeah, staying active helps a lot because I was inactive for many years. And then I was like, I'm going to go play some basketball. I like basketball. My knee has been hurt for like 8 months now. I just can't recover.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Got to go get some MRIs. That'll be fun.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Recently.
All right. So this is one that we usually ask most people. If you weren't in tech, what other career would you choose? And this could...
Sorry, yeah.
Well, I was going to just clarify, like this doesn't have to be a skill you possess. So if there's like a pie in the sky, that sounds really fun, but you don't possess that skill, you can choose that too.
Yeah. Something sports related. Like I said, I worked with a women's basketball team in college, and I don't know like what the role would be. Like it could be like a sports manager or a friend of mine that works with the women's team with me in college. I don't know his exact title. Works for the Bucks, Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh yeah.
And does something along the lines of like player relations. So like, as people come onto the team, like get them onboarded, like connect them to housing and stuff, but just help them acclimate and just keep, I don't know, morale up and stuff.
Yeah.
So something to be around sports in that capacity would definitely be a
cool. Let's see. Anything that we missed here? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess most of your hobbies are around content creation and stuff and sports, but like anything else that we missed that you like doing or?
I love to rap.
Oh,
So
really?
I do rap music myself.
Okay. Hold on here.
I'm not going to do it on here.
You're not going to do
So,
that. Yeah. So no.
Is your intro in your
No
podcast
freestyle.
you?
The intro is me.
Okay.
On our
I would
podcast.
not have pegged that.
Yeah. Well, it was really funny when Amy and I had just met. We did a stream. I had her on my stream, and then she after messaged me and was like, "Hey, would you want to do a podcast together?" Like, really, she was like, "I really enjoyed like our conversation."
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. And when we were kind of brainstorming what we were going to do, I was like, I could write like a little intro rap thing. And she was like, "Oh, okay." Like, not knowing that it may be decent.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and she loved it. And now it's kind of a joke. But it's been like a friend of mine, Reggie, one of my best friends in the world, said that he rapped in college. And I was like, you can just do that? And so I tried it, and like you'd laugh your ass off if you heard what I did at the time.
Okay.
But I did it, and then I started using it. I mean, basically,
Thank you. Yeah.
And not to get like dark, but like after I've had deaths in my family, it's been almost immediately like that week I wrote that song. And I've got some really deep songs about all that stuff. So I have a mix of like kind of therapeutic diary type songs, and I've done some more like traditional rappy type stuff.
Sure.
But I love lyrics. I love the creativity of like, I need to tell a story, but I have to figure out how to make it work and rhyme.
Right.
And that's a ton of fun. So that is my like secret hobby. And like, maybe if there was, going back to the earlier question, if there was something, hey, you could potentially do, like
maybe that would be. This seems more like pie in the sky, but like, you know, I know it has a, you know, traditional cultural roots, but like it's a culture that's kind of become part of America more and more, especially in like the last couple of generations. Like I grew up on hip hop and punk rock and all this kind of stuff, and it's like this amalgamation of things. So I mean, why not? I guess my only question there is then, what do we got to do to get you and Ken Wheeler in a room for a week and see what happens?
So it's funny you say that. I had a song that Ken said he would produce.
Okay.
And I'll call him out publicly. Like he didn't get back to me after I sent him the song. Which I didn't, like he was doing it for free, so I don't want to be like, hey,
no,
sure,
whatever.
So it's kind of a open door that's there. But that's always, I don't have a musical background. I play violin, so I have that. But I don't have like a producing background. Like I don't hear the details that other people hear. I just like to write lyrics and rap.
Okay.
So if I were to ever do something semi-serious, it would have to involve like someone that's really got the talent and the ear to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Ken Wheeler's got the grill.
Yeah.
He's definitely got the equipment. He convinced me to order this teenage engineering thing recently.
I've seen his second ones a few times.
Yes. Okay. So our intro is actually based, it all started from a video that I saw that Ken put up where he was on this little MIDI keyboard. And he was like, look, you can do these like simple little cool beats. And I was like, that kind of sounds fun. And it's something my kids could play with too. So go get one off Amazon. And then I have to look on YouTube for how do you fucking do this?
Yeah.
And came across this dude in Phoenix, like was doing these really cool beats, shared it with Robbie, and then we were like, yeah, we want to. So that dude, from all of that, that's how we got our intro. This guy in Phoenix using this MIDI keyboard that Ken convinced me to buy made our intro.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
It's kind of funny in that way. I like that you called him out.
Yeah. I've never said anything to him about it until very indirectly now. But if he's out there and hears it,
if he doesn't hear this, we'll ask him next time.
I'm actually going to message him after this. So just it'll be all right.
Feel free. It's probably like it's
cool
somewhere. So I'm an asshole for like, you didn't do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
or he's going to be like, bro, it was bad.
Yeah, that might be it. That he may not have wanted to waste his time. That could totally be it.
That would be like a fair and interesting response. But anyway.
Yeah.
Last fun fact.
Sure.
Yeah. The chorus for that song, I want to be my walkout music when I do talks from now on. So maybe one day you'll get to hear that at least.
I hope it's about Tailwind.
I could talk for days. That's a whole nother brand I'm debating about doing is like developer raps.
I thought about developer pop punk songs. I think that would be cool too.
I thought about doing developer comedy routines. So
let's do them all in one.
Yeah,
we can come up with a
variety show.
Variety shows. Yeah, so we could do that. We could have Ken do some of the beats. Right. We can make this happen. Listen, Ken, if you don't do this, I'm sending you a bag of dicks, 100%. So
you didn't send them one already?
No, but I still want to be friends.
All right. Well, as soon as Chuck starts bringing out the bag of dicks, it's time to end, I think. So, is there anything you want to plug before we end?
We talked about Astro. I've got Astro course at astrocourse.dev, and then James Hequit for website and social media, so Twitter and YouTube, etc. So
cool.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you liked it, please subscribe, leave us some ratings and reviews, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been watching Whiskey Web and Whatnot, recorded in front of a live studio audience.
What the fuck are you talking about, Chuck?
Enjoyed the show? Subscribe.
You know people don't pay attention to these, right?
Head to Whiskey.fund for merch and to join our Discord server.
I'm serious. It's like 2% of people who actually click these links.
And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and tell your friends about the show.
All right, dude, I'm out of here.
Still got it.